Welcome to the Podium Psychology Podcast with me, your host, Hugh Gilmore. The Podium Psychology Podcast is recorded in front of a live audience. We offer one of you, the audience, an opportunity to have a live psychology session with me, powered by a motivational interviewing approach. Then you, the audience, get to ask questions. There are no edits. This is a live, unplanned session. The problems are real, and so is the impact. Now, let's begin with this episode's volunteer. Hello, Jane. So how can I help you today?
Hi, Hugh. Thanks for having me along this evening. So I struggle with saying no to people, and in my personal life, I capitulate constantly to do things that I don't want to do. And work as well, I find it very, very difficult to say no to people. So what happens is, in both contexts, I end up taking the hit in terms of time, and that impacts on my family. And I don't see my husband or my little boy nearly as much as I should. And so it's like any slack in the tank is really impacts on us because I can't seem to say no.
Mm-hmm.
That's it in a nutshell.
Okay. So if I'm right in thinking then, Jane, the problem is here that you say yes to things that you would rather say no to. And the thing that what's the thing that you're stuck with? Because you obviously have the desire to change here. What is it that's sticking with you when you're trying to make this change?
Personally, I don't want to upset people. I feel like I'm being rude. I don't know if that is a Northern Ireland thing. I feel as though like I struggle to be direct, and even when I've forced myself to say, look, I don't want to do that. It's not fun for me anymore. 20 years ago it was, but I just don't want to do it. I want to take my middle-aged self to bed at 10 o'clock, even when I try and be direct, can we go for a walk instead, or could we do something else? I just get battered down, and it's like kind of relentless coming at me. And the common denominator is me, because I've got some very sensible friends as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then in work, I suppose I capitulate because I'm frightened of being seen as inefficient. And, I constantly feel as though I take too long to do things and too long to make decisions and can't tie anything off. So I absorb more because I'm worried I'm not hitting the targets and I'm not closing at the rate that I'm supposed to be closing at.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, yeah.
So there's a number of things there. There's the interactions with people, the impact that this has on your family, and then also the work aspects of needing to please or needing approval from other people.
Yeah, needing to be seen as at least competent. Yeah, very
Yeah.
much.
Okay. So it's kind of interesting. There's a degree of this, I think maybe an MI approach could work with, but also maybe a little bit of rational emotive behavior therapy, which we did in the last week as well. Is that okay to use a bit of both approaches with you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So if I was to say to you, why is this change really important for you? What's the big driver for you that makes this so important that you stop this capitulation and put your needs first?
Right. That's a good question. So, first of all, I want to feel like I'm a bit more in control of my own time,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to spend more time with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And they've taken a hit for a long time now. Like I've changed career. I've spent a long time studying and up very late at nights and weekends for years. And my husband has been so patient, and I bless him, like he never really very rarely complains, but I mean he really bears the brunt of it, and I feel like this isn't fair. But more than that, I feel like the three of us are missing out on our family time, and these are precious years that we can't get back, and it's not fair that I continue to impact it. because I really struggle to say no, I don't want to.
Yeah. So you're afraid of losing out these precious years, and it's impacting the people who are most important to you.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with your husband or family, but like, what is the actual thing you would be doing with him? Like, it's not going to be sitting down and watching reruns of Friends. Like, if you were to say it would be these types of things, what would it be?
Yeah, and yeah, that's cool. So I suppose it's the like when we do get away and we take those holidays, like in my family growing up, we didn't do the holiday thing. I don't come from a family of holidayers, and the same with my husband as well. He didn't really do those things. So for us, and we met each other later in life as well, it's been really, really cool coming from a sort of, we used to be musicians, both of us, so we came from that orchestral background where things were very uncertain and very antisocial, and then kind of moved into the grown-up world where people are supposed to work 9 to 5, and it's this thing of, God, like, and we can go on holidays and having those memories together, the spontaneous giggles, and I suppose I hate that sort of, the memories and all the rest of it, but you're experiencing each other, and it's really good crack, and it's that crack that you get with your people, and it's special. So it's that. I mean, don't get me wrong, like there's plenty of times where, like we'll have a fun family day out and everybody's ready to kill each other within about 2 minutes. But it's spending time with the people that you care about most.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, don't get to do that very much.
So whenever you're getting, I think you used the word, was it badgered or beat down
Yes.
by people to do other things,
Yeah.
what's occurring there that you don't want to do those things, but you say yes? Like, what is it they're asking you to do?
But what I mean, there's a lot of, like you want to go for a night out, and there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe it's just me, like I feel like I'm getting more antisocial or something in my old age, but I don't want. Do you know what I feel like? I work really hard, and time off is so precious, and it feels selfish, because they just want to go and have a bit of fun, and that's that. They're in that space where it works for them. I suppose maybe they've been in their jobs a lot longer and they feel freer, whereas I feel so busted every Friday night that I do not have RAM to listen to anybody else, and I feel bad about that. I just want to sit and zone out with Alex with a drink and watch TV for 2 hours and not speak.
Yeah. So you need a bit of time to yourself or time with your family,
Yeah.
to recuperate, and you feel bad about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's actually stopping you? What's the thing that stops you from going, actually, do you know what, this Friday I'm not able to do that? What's the thing that's stopping you there?
Generally what will happen is then, right, give us another date, and they'll be pretty persistent, and then I'll get very childish and lose my temper at the phone or something. I just feel like a cornered animal. I mean, Hugh, it's ridiculous. My reaction to this is ridiculous because they won't stop. Right, give us a date, and I had one recently, 2 friends, and these are people I care about, and I just don't want to waste a rare night where I can sleep and not speak and do this. Sounds really childish. This is really ridiculous. I can't even saying this stuff.
Not at all.
I
mean,
get
it sounds perfectly normal.
I get really unnaturally bothered by it, and the thought of having to go out, for a curry or whatever it is, like that will ruin my week beforehand. I'm like, flip's sake, and be really grumpy about it.
Okay. Well, these people, you care about them, but they're seeking too much of your time, and obviously you seem to be very popular to them. Is
No.
No?
Honestly, I think, do you know what I think? It's my pet theory is I think there's a little bit of, maybe other folk are maybe we different stages with relationships and different stages with kids. And I understand, like, I mean, dying to get out of the house, and I'm not.
Well, yeah.
There's a bit of a rub there. And then I think, I'll feel very guilty, just that I never seem to have time for other people. And it really isn't that I
Yeah.
don't care about them. I do care about them, but I would rather they would come for a run with me than kind of staying up late, which then impacts your next day. It sounds so petty. I'm
Well,
sorry.
actually, it's not about the activity necessarily. It's about, or sorry, it's not about the people necessarily. It's about the
Yeah,
activity.
it's the activity. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So that's an interesting distinction in itself. I mean, if this person rang you up and says, how often do you go running, Jane?
So 3 times a week, like,
If this person,
come join me. Brilliant.
yeah, if they came and joined you 3 times a week,
Yeah,
would you be up for that?
100%.
Okay, so not the person then.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's not the people.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I don't want to give up my weekends because I want to see my family.
Yeah. Okay. So whenever you're getting annoyed about this, you're obviously telling yourself something about that. You're saying to
Yeah.
yourself, you have a belief about it, and then that's causing you to, as you say, be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you said you get angry at the phone. Is that right?
It's
What
not rational at all.
what does that look like? That anger?
I will be like, I mean, the face will be into a full-blown scowl. I'll go into hibernation mode where the text will come up and then I'll, not look at them till 10 o'clock at night because it'll annoy me just to look at it.
Yeah.
And, the whole time I'll be sitting in the background stewing of already either how can I get out of this, or what am I going to say, or how can I manage this so that I can get out of there at 10 o'clock. Like, this should not take this amount of thinking space in my head. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's fine.
46 years old. This is not right.
Right. This this should not take the thinking space in my head.
Uh-uh.
Okay. And there's also something else. I mean, that's getting annoyed about thinking about it.
Yeah.
Why are you annoyed about what's the issue of saying, here, you know what? I only go out once every six weeks, and it's not this week, and it's not the next 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong? What's stopping you from saying that?
That's never occurred to me. I'm too busy letting it, or letting myself ruin my week over it. Yes, it feels like a massive imposition, and I feel like because I don't want to go, it's a double whammy because I should be honest with people, but then if I'm honest with people, they might go, well, and that's what's worse. Even if they said, well, that's fine, Claire, we'll not ring you anymore, I would nearly go, I'm quite relieved. I mean,
Right. Okay.
terrible. I have a friend, a really good friend, and one of the things we bond over is this. I shouldn't put this. I mean, I'm not identifiable, but it's this kind of thing. We're like, God, we just hate doing social things. We're
Yeah.
so antisocial and genuinely bond over, like, isn't it brilliant if we didn't have to speak to anybody for 48 hours?
You bond about it sounds interesting that two people bond about not connecting with anyone.
Yeah, why is I know?
There's a very big paradox there.
Yeah, you've
Um,
no idea how much we agonized over it. Should we invite each other for a walk or something? Because what if the other one said yes? Would you like them less? You know, weird.
I think what you say in that scenario is no, but coming along anyway. So look, but let's put a bit of work in here, because there's something there that lies below this idea of this shouldn't take this much thinking time, right?
Yeah,
There's the other aspect of it is, what if they say no? Oh, fine, we'll not bother calling you again.
yeah.
What emotion does that bring up in you?
At, at the moment, it brings up pure relief, and And that's not right, because these are good people, and I'm genuinely fond of them, and I don't know if it's because I'm just scunnered, I'm genuinely tired and sort of want to retreat into a bubble a wee bit after, quite a few years of very intense work. I don't know if it's that,
Yeah.
or I don't know if it's, and I would have been, I suppose, younger, like constantly up for, yeah, let's head out, let's do
Hmm.
whatever. But I think also there's a bit of guilt and shame, the fact that I wasn't around, or I feel like I wasn't around for my wee boy while I was retraining.
Uh-huh.
I feel like any time that I take now is also not fair on him.
Okay. So there's guilt and shame about your time you spent retraining. Now, I do know you're heavily qualified in many different directions, so
Um,
obviously that's obviously been a big investment of time. Um, the other thing I'm going to say to you is, so when you say the word scunnered, just for anybody listening who's
yes,
not from Northern Ireland, that obviously means fed up to a
yes,
degree.
yeah.
Um, Now there's guilt and shame in there. What you feel guilty for not being around for your child,
Yeah.
and if what's the shame you feel that others are judging you negatively?
I feel I feel like I've been a bad parent.
You
I
feel like,
really do.
yeah,
I feel like I have been, there's been a vacuum there where his mum should be
yeah,
in many respects. And much as I can try and dress up the quality quantity piece, I feel like I have, through my own choices, to shift career, and
mm.
that it's not his fault that that has impacted on him, and I suppose my own need to do it to a certain level.
You
uh,
obviously care deeply about your ability as a parent and your role as a mother.
yeah, yeah,
And
like,
go ahead.
no, I mean, that's, I do, but what I feel that the rub is that I feel I've nothing to back that up. I don't feel I can turn around and say I put the time in. It's like, Hugh, I don't do the school runs. I don't do the play dates again, because I can't stand the small talk. That's awful to admit this. Like, I know, I appreciate it's a safe space, but it's funny when you delve. Like, I can't bear the small talk. So I don't do it. I duck it. I avoid it like the plague. I don't forge relationships at the parent level, because I and then I overcompensate when I am in the company, and I'll talk to people or let them talk to me for 2 hours, and I come out, the few occasions I have done that, will come out absolutely drained, going,
Mm.
Jesus, there was my Saturday. And I'm very lucky, because my husband does all that, and he says, men are great because men don't feel the need to kind of make polite conversation or whatever, but I don't do that stuff, and I feel like I'm not doing enough, and that I haven't done enough, and that every time then when I choose to say, look, oh, I'm saying such and such, or I'm saying such and such, that is just not fair.
Do you know you're squirming over the problem here?
Okay.
And what I mean by that is there's many different things moving down
Yeah.
and moving around. We're talking about
Hmm.
the guilt you feel from maybe not having been as present because of
Yeah.
your retraining. You're
Hmm.
talking about the shame you feel because you feel as if you're currently not doing enough.
Yeah.
And then, but there's also the problem here is that what you want to do is you want to say no to people so you can say yes to other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you say no to people, there's something in that. That's the real problem, I think, from what you've described.
Yeah.
Because if you start saying yes to other things, which is being a parent, going at home, whatever, saying no to those things, that's
Mhm.
the direction you want to move in. Is that correct?
That is the direction I want to move in.
Right.
Yeah.
So the moment you go and say yes to somebody,
Hmm.
why do you feel as if you have to say yes to them?
Um, usually guilt, because I've ducked it for about 4 months previous and I've run out of excuses.
Okay. So guilt tends to be where you are looking for forgiveness from somebody, or it's wherever you assume more personal responsibility potentially than you should have. And you feel as if you get guilt. The guilt is I have hurt someone, therefore I'm guilty. You know, if you think about it, that's why the people go to court and you are guilty.
Yeah.
So like, who is the person you're hurting here whenever you're saying no to these people?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm being rude to them,
Right. Okay.
but I'm actually, I feel like I'm hurting my family by default, you know.
So the guilt that you feel from not being around for your family is less than the guilt that you feel for being rude to a friend.
Oh, that's very clever. Yeah, that's the yeah, but it's like that's how I'm framing it at the minute. It's like, well, if I'm going to hurt somebody in the equation, I'd rather, they take it or I offend them rather than the others.
So you'd rather hurt your family than hurt your friends. Is that what you're saying? Sorry, yeah, is that what you're
It
saying?
sounds awful, isn't it? And that's what I'm doing.
How does it?
I don't want to hurt either. I just want to say, can you please leave me alone and catch up with me? Maybe, I don't know, 5 years when I recover.
Yeah. Would it be right in saying that? So, if I was to put this together, you're saying I should not refuse invitations for uh, meeting up people or nights out. I should not refuse people's invites.
Yeah, on
And
weekends.
and then you're saying because that would, if I refuse them, then how would you finish that off? Then I'm
So
being rude.
yeah. So give me that. What's that statement then? So if
I
I should not.
I should not refuse invites from my friends,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because then I'm being rude. Is that it?
yeah. I think that's pretty accurate. I think that's
Okay. And what are you
yeah,
saying? And you're actually saying they will judge me as rude because rude's a judgment, isn't it? You know, you could burp and in one culture and it's rude, and in another culture it's praise.
yeah,
It's a judgment externally. So
yeah.
kind of saying I shouldn't refuse invites because they would judge that as rude. And then if they judge that as rude, what's the consequence of that?
Yeah. And I'm looking at it. I'm wondering, is it less about the rude and more about I'm being flaky? And that might relate to the kind of, the competence piece,
Okay.
which God forbid, you know,
So I should be competent and not flaky and forgetful and
yeah, and ducking things and, being unreliable, which, like, I'm not an unreliable person, but I do make a heck of a lot of excuses, you know, with friends. I'm just constantly putting things off.
right.
And I wonder, there's a piece of being rude, and what would the consequence of that be? I don't know, maybe that's a cultural piece of, gosh, that's bad. There is no consequence, but the flaky piece, that's interesting because that kind of prompts some stuff like that might lead on to, oh well, she's not coping. She's all over the place. She's not able to handle the stress. She's, balls are dropping, all of that stuff.
Why is that an issue?
Yeah, that would probably yeah, it'll be that thing of, does it come back to preferring to be thought of as competent and in control, and
Right. So
secretly not.
I should be competent, in control, and
Yeah.
reliable,
Yes.
and not dropping any balls. And if I do, then what does that say? Does that say something bad about you? Does that say something bad about your life? Or does that say something bad about others that they put these demands on you? What are you saying?
Yeah, that would kind of come back to, I suppose there's a bit of, you know, yeah, that's lurking in there. I should be confident in control and not dropping balls. And if I'm not, what does that say? That says that's, yeah, I'm not coping. I'm not,
It says I'm not coping. And why is that such a problem that you're not coping?
uh because what if this chaos continues for the rest of my life? Do you know what I
Okay,
mean?
so
What I'd be
this
coping.
chaos of not coping continues for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And what's the issue with that?
Um yeah, I suppose I'll have there's something there and I don't know what it is. It's like I continually, like, I still go to my dad for advice, feel like, I don't know, like I haven't taken that step, and there's something in that where I feel like I should be those things and I don't feel like I'm those things. And
I should be those things, and if I'm not, then I'm not a fully mature adult person
yeah,
grown up, and I'm a bad representation of what a human being should be.
all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Well, that's nonsense. I think you get that, but we need to prove that's nonsense.
Yes, that'd be
And we'll prove that first of all. Is believing that helpful to yourself?
no,
It's not. Okay. And is that in any way logical, that because you are refusing people's invites that you're somehow unreliable, flaky, and whatever else, and that this is a bad thing and you're a bad human being because of refusing an invite? Is that in any way logical?
it's not logical, but I feel like I am constantly at it and I am in pattern territory.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence to suggest that you have to go out with people to be their friend, is there?
No, nope, there's not.
Is it logical to think that you have to go out and with people
Nope,
to be their friend?
nope, nope.
Okay. And is there anywhere that says that you shouldn't be allowed to assert your own boundaries?
No. Bar conditioning, no.
Okay. So this belief doesn't serve you at all.
No, it doesn't.
This idea that I should be reliable, should be not flaky, should be not hurting people by refusing their invites.
Mhm.
And it doesn't in any way make you a bad person, or in any way put you down. But the better belief would be to say I'd prefer, because that's a very rigid belief. If I don't do these things, I'm terrible, I'm a bad person, I'm not good enough. Um, if we put that over on the other side, what we prefer is to have this as a flexible belief, which is I'd prefer to be able to meet everyone's needs and arrangements and go to whatever invites. But if I can't and don't, it does not mean that I'm a bad person.
Yeah,
And also, it does not mean that they will be hurt. They're responsible for understanding my needs as much as I am for meeting theirs.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Unless these people are somehow like, your overlord. You think you have to do everything for them, do you?
Well, now I've got this call out of the way. I'll invite them all. Maybe that'll. I no, it doesn't. They're definitely not overlaws. Like they're strong characters, and you know they don't take no for an answer easily. But
Mm-hmm.
that lovely little flip there, that's a night. That's a good shift for me because like that's a. It's just that moment, isn't it? It's that. But if I don't, it does not mean this, because you don't really realize how ingrained that stuff is rooted, kind of when you drill it down.
Hmm. Well, if you're saying, you're refusing these invites, and then you're saying to yourself, I'd prefer to go, I'd prefer to be able to accept these invites, but I can't because I want to prioritize other things,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. Instead of you feeling bothered and angry about that and ruminating for
Yeah.
4 hours till 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
right? You might be able to respond instantly
Yeah.
and go, that was uncomfortable, but now I've secured my time.
Yeah.
And you might be able to feel a little bit sad because you feel as if I should be making more time for them, but I want to actually be a bit happy that I can get more time with my family.
Yeah. 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 And there's definitely a wee there's a bit of light in there, Hugh, and it sounds, I mean, I feel like it sounds totally ridiculous because it's not as if I'm not a social butterfly or anything. It's not like I have a diary of that's terribly exciting. It's just weird how these things, like, once a month it'll come around and I'll feel the pressure and I will really, really let that get to me. And it's been getting to me for a long time. And actually there's something in that helps me see it differently.
Is there anything that's occurred in the last 30 odd minutes that has been useful?
Yes, very. I think it's that I suppose for me, realizing how something that I consistently frame as trivial, actually for me, the personal significance isn't trivial. And so that's helpful to realize that actually when you go down the rabbit hole, oh, okay, right, Claire, and that is not logical and not helpful. And actually there's no evidence for it. So that's really, really good for the shift. And also I think the help in terms of reframing it to something more rational, the presentation of that is genuinely useful because I certainly wasn't getting there on my own. So I really appreciate that, Hugh. Thank you.
No problem at all. So instead of feeling guilt, what we'd prefer to feel is actually remorse. Or if we're trying to feel, instead of feeling that we're got shame, we could feel disappointment, because the same emotions, they're just a different qualitative experience.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So if I'm feeling guilty, that's because I've done wrong. I've let my friends down. But actually, I can say I'd prefer not to let them down, but I'm going to feel remorse because I'll try and not let them down in the future. But I need to also not let down my family.
Yeah.
And I can feel shame, or disappointment is basically, or shame is that you've fallen short of an ideal. So I always use the example of people wear clothes because of shame. This is why nobody runs around naked in the street, generally speaking, most days, because we would feel shame, right? And we would feel that we have fallen short of an ideal. Whereas disappointment is a more healthy belief about that. As well, it's a bit disappointing, my behavior. I can change it. But also the other thing is that not everyone will judge us badly. So your friends might not judge you badly for prioritizing your family. And if they do,
Yeah.
you're not in charge of other people's judgments.
No.
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 Like, all I need to do is say, what way did you vote with Brexit? And there'll be 50% of the people maybe not like you.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what if they don't like you or not, you're still entitled to vote whatever way you wanted to vote.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is all you're doing, is you're voting your night out. And it's not up to them to have your opinion. It's not up to you to have their opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very good. That's a good one of it. Or actually, alternatively, on the night out, you could raise Brexit, and that would get you home early, which is always another one. No, that's sorry. No, that's it. It is. It's good, and that thing. Funny as well. You go from guilt to the remorse piece. Yeah, actually, in a way, you can't. You feel it a wee bit more. Actually, it brings it to life because you go. There's remorse is the right word. Yeah, I wish it was different, but here's where we are. And the same with the disappointment. It would be lovely to fit all of these things in, but it's just not. It's not where we're at. I have a little person, and you know,
You, your ability as a mother is much more important to you than your ability as a friend,
yeah, it is right now. It really is.
and it's something you want to prioritize.
Yeah.
And the only reason that you feel this pain of shame, guilt, whatever that it is, and then also the anger and bothersomeness of the phone, the only reason you feel all those is because you have this desire to be a great mother.
Yeah. We're having a present mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can only feel that because you have this desire to do these other things that are much more important.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about that?
It lands squarely. Absolutely right. It's just that. That's what it is, and I suppose I haven't really taken the time beyond just storming around and getting irritated to boil it down to what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'll maybe always be, well, I don't know, struggle to prioritize sometimes, but and I need to do that, and it helps to kind of crystallize the why around it.
So you now have the motivation to go forward and go, actually, do you know what? I'm a mother first.
Yeah.
And because of that, I make hard decisions.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna hazard a guess. I bet you made the hard decision to do all the retraining that you did because you wanted to provide more for your family.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to have a family, and you know, the orchestral life was tremendous fun, but and people do it, and fair play to them.
Mhm.
I couldn't. It wouldn't work for me, but absolutely, what we can give him now, and it's not just stuff. It's the stability, and that family unit. It's important to us that we give him that, and we couldn't have done it before, and we're able to do it now. And I just, yeah, there's something around. Well, he's 8 now, and I feel like, right, this malarkey has gone on for long enough. I have to, for me, I have to start, asserting my own boundaries.
You've got about 6 years left till he's in the middle of teenagerness, and he'll not want to see you.
It's look behind you. That started already. Yeah, I know that's it. But it's funny. Mum always used to say to me when he was wee, because I struggled very much with the early years. I found it really, really tough. And she always used to say, look, don't wish it away, because they'll be gone in a flash. And yeah, there's something very true in that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Jane, thank you very much for this. I suppose thank you for bringing a problem. I think we've maybe reached something where it might be useful to have a bit of a plan in place for the next time you feel like you have to respond. What is it you think would help? If you were to go bet £1 million that you would give the response that you want to say from your gut, as opposed to please people, what would you do differently to do that?
Well, there's two things I think to remember. This, I'm a mum first, and keeping that why front and center will really help. And the other thing is, I could maybe be a bit more proactive about this and actually talk to people. Before anything comes up, just lift the phone and say, or ask, would you come for a wee walk, and just be honest about where I'm at. And for a wee while, I need to do this differently, and here's why.
Yeah, I think it's a very big thing to turn down nights out with friends, culturally, and I think finding an appropriate substitution for that can be very useful in getting around this. But
Yeah.
regardless of even that, imagine they found a substitution that was just as time consuming and even more impactful. Because I have a funny feeling your 8-year-old is not out of bed at the time that you're at home or out with the friends, you know.
No.
So I think there might be something there that you need to even still maintain this boundary even then.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah. Well, what do you say? You can hardly say I'm catching up in the Real Housewives. So
Well, you could. Well, what do you think? What would you like to say?
I would like to say I don't see my husband all week.
Uh-huh.
I want to spend some time with him.
Right. Okay. So what's stopping you from saying that?
Uh, take it down another rabbit hole. I suppose I feel like but if really is this is awful. It's terrible because you like uh, see, a lot of them can't stand their husbands. So I feel like if I admit to liking mine, it's the whole thing. I'm not kidding. This is
No,
true.
I could see that. Right.
Why they want out. So like, yeah.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to make a note of this if my wife is ever persistent looking out. Um,
Go on.
but you know, you're not responsible for fixing their relationships.
No, no, not.
And just because they're messing up what they've got to take control of doesn't mean they're allowed to come in and mess up what you've got control of.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think what you need here is you need to have some clear expectations of I find it acceptable if have a night out every X number of weeks.
Oh, okay, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
No, that's good because that's manageable. At least if I set the boundary, then I'll feel more contained when I'm trying to put it down.
Yeah, and you can put that boundary down and then you can change it because it's your boundary.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can say, actually, do you know what? I need more nights out. My husband is annoying me. Or you could say, actually, I need less nights out. My husband's really, really nice to me, and they're actually just difficult and whingy.
Yeah,
You can change a boundary. That's why it's called a boundary. That's why it's your boundary because you can change it.
yeah, yeah. No, I like that, and that'll work, and I can take a bit of time to pace that out. I mean, it sounds so logical and clear when you lay it out like this. I feel bad that it has taken you to help me lay it out
So
like this.
you keep using the term "I feel bad" and "this is terrible."
Mm,
You've
right.
used that, I'd say, at least 16 times throughout this entire call.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's nothing bad and there's nothing terrible has been said. And you seeking help, seeking support, or struggling with an issue is neither bad nor terrible.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't have to do a great job of everything. You're allowed to make mistakes of things, and you're going to make a mistake of this boundary setting. I guarantee you. But
Yeah.
you'll go, actually, I've made a mistake there. I'm going to change that. It's my boundary. I change it. It's my mistake. I change it and do better next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know whenever you learn stuff, whenever you were in the orchestra, you didn't
Mhm.
just miraculously pick up whatever instrument it is and then start playing it. You
Yeah.
know, you had to practice it.
You
You had to
did.
make mistakes, and this is the exact same thing. You're just playing at managing your life and making mistakes as you learn how to manage it better as it changes. Because instruments don't change, but your life stage changes.
Yes. Yeah. That's really good, Hugh. Thank you. It,
Um, sorry, I interrupted you there. You were going to say something else?
no, I was just going to wax lyrical for a minute. That's really helpful, because you're right. I do say that constantly. God, this is awful. This is terrible, and it's a bad habit, and I will make mistakes with this, but it's feels nice to have that taken seriously for a minute and to go, right, it's all right. It is all right.
If this is the worst thing that happens to you, you're going to have a great life.
Yeah, it's not, as I say, I could keep you employed for several years, but it's interesting because it is something that annoys me and takes up a lot of headspace, and I, focused conversation around it is going to be genuinely useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for volunteering your problem. At this point, I'm just going to throw it open to the group if they've got any questions about what's occurred, or anything they noticed, or anything they think maybe did wrong or inappropriate, as well, because mistakes do happen. Also, so if anybody's any questions, just stick up your hand there, and I'll shout out. And obviously, Jane, if you have any questions at all, you can ask them as well. Go ahead there. You've got your hand up.
Thank you, and thank you again for the session and for volunteering as well. That was really a privilege listening on that one. My question is, what sort of triggers you so early on to want to use a bit of REBT and motivational interviewing? Because it seems to happen quite quickly that you catch something.
Right. So the thing is, motivational interviewing is really good for working with somebody who is stuck. It's emerged out of addictions therapy, and it's good for creating a relationship. It's good for helping people evoke their motivation for behavior change. And a lot of what I'm listening out for is called change talk versus sustained talk. So change talk is things like desire, ability, reasons, or need. And sustained talk is I can't do this, I don't want to do that, it's too awkward, it's too bad, it's too difficult, And in this case, and in the previous week's case, it was apparent that actually this person is already at the stage where they need to change, and they're wanting to change, they just don't know how. They haven't had the opportunity to talk about it. So at that point, that's when I'll go, right, yeah, I'm probably at the point where I can do a little bit of rational emotive behavior therapy, but I'm not straying too far away from MI, because one of the things I've done there, I used a couple of complex reflections. One of them was, you've got the guilt of being something. I said something along the lines of, you've got the guilt of, being a bad mother versus the guilt of being a bad friend, and actually you'd rather hurt your family than your friends. That's what's called a double-sided reflection. And when Jane heard that was like, oh, that basically probably twisted her inside. And she said at that point that made a lot more sense. I've never heard that. You're very clever there, the way you did that, because I've just put back to her exactly what she said. So the other thing that I did later on was the affirmation, where Jane said that landed very squarely. And that was the one about being a good mother and about the decisions that Jane had made, because the problem Jane's expressing here is she's far too hard on herself and not hard enough on everyone else, is one of the things, because she didn't even identify in any of the languages she presented with that this sacrifice that she made by retraining was for the ability to settle down and have a family. It wasn't for her as such. So, she's made sacrifices in a child's early years, which is a massively difficult thing for any mother to do or any father to do. So there must be a bigger motivation behind that. So that's why I went for that. Yeah. Does that help? What are your thoughts on that as an answer?
It really helps. And is it sort of then, like you said, it's at a point where she needs to change now, so she's not really got that ambivalence anymore? Is that what you sort of meant there?
Yeah. So I'm listening out to see, is this person actually at the stage of, I need to do something about this, versus I don't know what to do, and I feel as if I don't need to change and don't want to change.
Yeah.
You know, if Jane had said, for example, I feel as if I'm letting my family down, but I really enjoy nights out with the girls, and it's really important to me. But I'm letting my son down or my daughter down. You know, that would have indicated to me there's a bit of tension there and ambivalence between the two. But there
Yeah.
wasn't. It was full on. I was pushing against an open door. The difference is that Jane doesn't have or didn't have, hopefully, the skills and I suppose the philosophy and change that, you know, actually this isn't okay for me to do this, to make these changes, and this is something I want to do, and it is going to be painful, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, actually, what can I talk about with her to help her reframe her problems so she thinks about it differently in such a way that she's then empowered to go, hold on a minute, Betsy, tonight is not going out night. So yeah, I assume friends are called Betsy. That's fine. I'll add that bit up. Any thoughts there on that answer?
Yeah, that sort of ties a couple of things together, especially some of the questions. One of the questions asked last week, especially when you mentioned the philosophy there. That okay, the motivation is to, as you said, the door's open. We now need to change her philosophy to get that behavior change going.
Yeah, massively. Did we change the philosophy? Yeah, we got on to I'd prefer, but I don't need.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, this is a very condensed session. Like I normally take 90 minutes, but I'm working with something much more difficult than something that a volunteer's bringing. You know, it might take 90 minutes to get that whole thing done, whereas we can work rather fast with volunteers because they're bringing less challenging problems. Hopefully that's been a helpful answer. Has anyone any other questions, or do you have any other questions? And feel free to use the chat box as well if you want to put your questions in the chat box, if you're not a talker.
It's not a question, but I found it fascinating that when you challenge the logical nature of the beliefs, they're obviously not logical, but by the time you got to the plan at the end, it was, oh, that's a logical plan. That contrast was really, really clear at the end. And it's really interesting to see that realization as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we're humans. We don't think logically. We think in shortcuts, heuristically, and that's really useful to do that because it saves us time, and we'd rather think in shortcuts because we don't have a lot of energy to expend on logically going through things. So when we do sit down and go through it a bit slower and test everything, then we can actually see that, well, how we're shortcutting our problem solving doesn't really help us, because shortcutting it actually is avoiding it and just putting up with it and throwing the phone away and running around with a scowl on the face. Comment in there saying really interesting and thanks. So thank you very much for that. Okay, guys, thank you very much. This has been a rather interesting one, to say the least. It's nice to use a little bit of REBT and show the blend of that. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're interested in getting somebody who's trained in motivational interviewing to work with you, there's a list of people on my website who I've personally trained up in motivational interviewing. However, if you're interested in getting trained up, get in touch with me. A massive thanks to the person who stepped forward anonymously with their problem. I look forward to helping another anonymous person take a step forward in the right direction for them next week. If you're interested in being part of the live audience, please sign up. My YouTube channel can be subscribed to and has a host of playlists and videos there which are related to motivational interviewing and performance psychology. If you want to subscribe or share that, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Look after yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next live podcast.